All right, welcome back to Comp 229 Web Application Development, and it's week 6, part 4 of our broadcast and video series, connecting to Heroku and MongoDB Atlas. All right, so some technical requirements. The new stuff is from last video is authentication navigation working. So we kind of had that in place, and we talked about the advantages of kind of showing the navigation bar. So this is where we're going to make a connection between. We have one place which is going to migrate it over to this a bigger, better system, I think. At the end of the video, you're going to have all you need to host your site live with both Heroku and MongoDB Atlas. So a completely online site now, not depending on your local database in any way. All right, so we have lots to cover. And again, I've upgraded our package.json file just to make sure that we have all the details, similar to what we did in week 3 when we put this up the first time. And I've gone ahead and created a Git repository ahead of time. So all I've done is I've gone up to up online, and I've got a new Git repository here. It's private again. You should do the same thing. So all I've done is I've put it up in the same way I did last time. I made a Git repository, I put it up. This is a different Git repository than we used for week 3, right? So this way we can put it up and it'll be slightly different. Okay, so step 1, let's make a new Heroku site, just like we did last time. Now that we have it up on GitHub, again, the site has to be up. Some basic requirements we have to mention locally, just as a review of what we did in week 3 is you must have this section here in your package.json, engines, node, and npm version. I just kept it the same as last time. You should kick off or rejig your package.json so it includes more details. For example, it's a private repository, and also the repository information for your package. This is important. Okay. And then once you put everything up on GitHub, similar to what we showed you in week 3, you're ready to put things up on Heroku. So that's the first part. So Heroku is the first part. Heroku is still going to show the views. It just, there won't be any data at this point when we connect. So there's a couple of approaches here. We're going to put it up on Heroku once, and it's going to fail because it's our connection. Here's the way it can go. Our connection to our server in our db.js is a local connection. This connection string, this URI, has to change when we connect it to the live site online. That's kind of an important piece. So this is going to be incorrect in the beginning, and we're going to update our package, our package to include this. Okay. So there's a couple of approaches. One, we put it up on Heroku first, and then we have an error. Or 2, we create our database ahead of time up on Mongodb, which is now called MongoDB Atlas, or MLab. It was formerly MLab. And then we have our proper way of doing things, and then we'll create our site. And I think maybe thinking about this again, I might go in that direction. So let's go up on Atlas. So please, at this point, sign up for MongoDB Atlas. It's free. Okay, so there's no cost to it at all. Pause the video while you do that. Go ahead, sign up for MongoDB Atlas, and come back. All right, now that you've signed up for MongoDB Atlas, you should be taken to a kind of a dashboard that looks like this. I have an example project here that I used before. I'm just going to make a new one. So again, I'm going to go New Project and MongoDB Atlas. It's going to ask me for my project name. Let's make one. So we're going to call this Comp 229, and then it's going to be in the fall 2020 semester, and it's week 6. That's the project name. Now, let's click Next. Okay, that's the first thing. We're going to create the project, and let's wait till this is done. Awesome. So we have a project, but the next thing it needs is something called a cluster. All right. So a cluster is think about it as a group of servers that is going to be representing your MongoDB database. Okay, I'm going to click Build a Cluster here. And there's different options. Obviously, you can get a paid cluster if you really want to. And there's different options for the performance that you're going to get out of it. So if you're going to do something that required a more hefty backend, you would definitely not go with this one. Okay, you would definitely want to go with something like this, especially if you're making something that needed more real-time dedication. For now, for us, this is create an empty cluster for us is fine. It's just free. We're going to get a small amount of minutes, and now the next thing is which one do you choose and which location. So this is the actual location of the cluster. So you notice that you can choose different locations. I can choose North Virginia as an example, which is in North America. There's Europe, Asia, and Australia. I'm going to go with North Virginia because it's the closest to where we are. But you can choose one that's closer to you. I'm also going to choose Azure because a lot of times I connect with Azure, and you can see that there's an area here that says Canada Central. And since we're in Canada, I'm going to use this location, which is closer to me. The closer the cluster is to me, then what happens is you get better performance response time. Okay, so that's the cluster I'm going to use. The cluster tier sandbox, you can see that you get a shared RAM. So we're making a virtual machine with a small amount of storage space, 512 megabytes. It's not very large, but that's way enough for what we need to do. And there's also additional settings. The cluster name, you may want to change that to something else. You can change this to whatever you want. This is kind of like your cluster, your database server. So we can call this database server. And we can even call it MongoDB server. Okay, and then we can click Create Cluster. It's going to take some time. It says 1 to 3 minutes, but I find that typically it takes way longer than 1 to 3 minutes. Okay. While we're doing this, while the cluster is being created, let's get back to the project. It's going to take some time. Let's go back to our View All Projects. Click on our project. And what we want to do while this is being done is I want to talk about database access. Database access. Let's go to database access. And what we want to do here is create a database user. Okay, this is important because we can't access our database and to do database authentication and all this other stuff unless we have a database user. This is not a user, for example, just a casual user that's signing up for our website. This is manipulating the database, the backend, and so on. So I'm going to click Add New Database User. Again, there's different options for connection. We're going to use password. I'm going to put my username. I'm going to use Thomas as my username. Instead of me choosing my own password, and since I'm showing you this online, I'm going to auto-generate a secure password for myself. So auto-generate. This is important. Now, let's show you what that password looks like. It looks like this. Let's do a thing and be smart about it. I'm going to get a notepad and I'm going to copy and paste that password, right? Copy and paste that password to my notepad. So that way I don't have to try and remember it because I'm going to need it later on when I connect to the service. Okay. So that's the one thing. I need that. Database user privileges, read and write to any database is the right way to go. You can also choose other things if you like. Restrict access to specific clusters and data lakes. No. Temporary user, and it'll be deleted after you specify duration in hours. So you can kind of create a user, get them to update stuff, especially if you're managing something. They're working on a small project. You can create a user and it'll be gone. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it so it lasts forever, and then click Add User. So then there we go. So there's me. I've been added as a user manager, if you will. I can add as many database users that I want. Okay. I can also make custom roles. Let's get back to that cluster and see it's been deployed. And you can see it still needs deployment. There's still, it takes time for this to happen. So you need to be patient. around this, and the reason for that is because what it's doing is actually creating 3 different servers for you, that's why it's called a cluster. So this way, what it'll do is these 3 nodes will have some redundancy, so you get pretty good performance for free. I mean, honestly, you really can't go wrong, in order for you to get this service. So I think this is pretty good. Now, I'm tempted to create our stuff on Heroku while we're doing it. Let's just start our structure. We'll come back to this. We won't upload yet because we want to kind of push to Heroku when we're ready, and we're not quite ready yet. So I'm going to go to Heroku, and again, we have our F2020 week 3. Let's make a new site or new app on Heroku. So again, we're going to say it's going to be comp 229, and let's just make it so it's lowercase. And then it's fall 2020, and it's week 6. Okay, and create the app. There we go. I'm tempted to press this, but again, I'm going to wait until my cluster has been completed here. And now it has. So you can see it did take a little bit of time. And this is really important because what's going to happen is I need to get some information about how to connect to this cluster. Notice that there is a collection name here. All right. This is important. We want to add our data before we actually connect to it. And we'll do that in a second. Okay. So again, let's go back to our database. Let's go back to our view all projects. I want to show you something. Go back to week 6. We can see here we have a cluster. And if I click on collections, we can see here that we don't really have any collections, right? We can add a new collection, add my own data. We can also load a simple data set, and we can also, there's a way of actually transferring data up here as well. But we're going to add our own data, so we're going to click Add My Own Data. We want to make a database name. Our database name is Bookstore, remember? And our collection name is going to be Books. We're just going to add the Books collection first, just to have some kind of data up here. So this is the first part. All right, cool. So we have a new collection, but it's empty, the Books collection. We could make another collection too, but this collection is empty right now. Let's insert a document, okay? I want to insert a document. Notice that there's an option here for me to type the document manually, or I can go into this view, which allows me to copy paste. And luckily here I have my data that I've pulled up in our Mongo command line. I'm just going to grab, I don't need everything. I can't take my ID with me because it's going to have its own ID up online, a separate one. But I can take my name and everything to price, and I can copy this, Control C, in the command prompt, go over here, and then after the ID, press comma, and then paste. And this will give me the first document online. I'm going to click Insert. And now we have our first document. We can see that the document that we had locally, the record, is up here. Let's add another one. Let's add the ones that we have so far. So again, going back to this, switching back. Again, this is a tedious process. If you had a lot of data, there's a migration process you can use. For now, we don't care about that. We just care about just putting a few example documents up so we have something to play with. Okay, inserting that one. It's the same process. I'm going to do it 2 more times. Just going to grab up to there. All right, insert, and 1 more document. Just going to grab all that. And insert. And now we have 4 documents up here, right? You can see them plainly in here. And for the books collection. So we have Bookstore is the database, Books is the collection, similar to what we've done before. We also have this command line tools part. So you notice in the collection, we have command line tools. And it's going to give us what we need to connect. Take a look at this. So here is it says Mongodb. If I wanted to connect to a database, you can see that how this works. You can do data import tools. You can set up diagnostics. We can also install the Mongo CLI, MongoDB CLI, if you wanted to go there. But you can see how our connection now, Mongo import, Mongo export, Mongo store, Mongo dump, our URI is this, the same URI every single time pretty much, /database. This is the connection that we want to use, right? So this is import and export. If I want to connect if you go look at connect instructions, it kind of shows you what we need to do. So here's something else. It says you can't connect yet. Set up your firewall access below. Now this is the next step to making this good. You can add your current IP address. This is my external IP. You can add a different IP address, or you can allow access from anywhere. So let's click this one, right? So it's 000. I'm going to click add IP. And now I'm ready to connect. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's one thing that it did for us, right? We created a database user, right? And now we'll choose a connection method. And it says, how do I want to connect? I want to connect with a Mongo shell. I want to connect your application. I want to connect using MongoDB Compass. Definitely not. Let's use my application. So now we can see that it's Node.js 3.6 or later, and include full driver code example if I really want to. I can add that in. So it tells you how to do it. Look at that. It tells you everything that you need to connect up here. And this is important to keep up while we're modifying our local files, right? So this is very similar to what we've done before. So notice it says const URI is equal to this, right? Where my password is going to be the password that we have. I'm just going to change this. Notice that all this is still good. Connect, we're going to, this is the same kind of structure we had before. I'm just going to grab just this part. Just this part, all the way here. It's very important. Okay, so copy that. And I'm going to go back to locally to our URI here. And then we're going to say something like URI, and then we're going to paste that in. Okay, just undo that and try that again. Okay, let's paste that in. So now a couple things we have to change. The password has to change, so that has to change, and the database name has to change, and the angle brackets can go away. So the password we know is going to be in my notepad. So here's my notepad. That's the password, right? And the database name is going to be bookstore, just like it is up here. We're going to comment this part out, and we're only going to use this URI now from now on, right? Because this is the URI we want to use as we connect up online. Okay. So the smart thing to do is before we deploy to Heroku is test this URI out so that we know it works properly. Let's do that now. So save it. And let's run the code the way it is and see what happens, right? Before we go up online. So we're going to connect from here locally on our local machine to our MongoDB Atlas. Okay, so again, control backtick, clear, and we're going to say nodemon. And then, hey, look at that, connected to MongoDB, right? That is a good sign. That means we've actually, our URI is functional, right? If we didn't get this message, if we get some kind of error, then our URI would be non-functional. So now we should be able to do everything that we normally can do locally. So let's go to our local database. This is can't do that one. This is from week 3. Let's go locally. So again, we're going to go localhost. I believe 3500 is what we had left it at. Here we are. And I want to look at books. And look at that. That's coming off of online. I'm not running locally, right? And to test this theory, look, you can see that if I shut down this, so let's just shut down our local Mongo server, and we'll do the same thing here. Let's quit. Just to make sure that there's nothing going on. So we can close these command prompts now because we're not running a Mongo server. If I refresh, this is a key thing. You can see that we still have books here listed. This is not coming locally. This is coming from our service online. That's the first step. And to change this, if I log in, right, now this is something new. I need to register for the first time because we've never registered before. So I'm registering a new username, admin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the same password we kind of used before, just to give you a sense of what we do. Admin at example.com with our display name admin, and register. Now this is key. So we just registered online for this one. You can see now that I have access to edit, just like normal, and everything else. Okay, so let's take a look at what this looks like up online now. So we're going to go back to here. We've got our connection string. We don't need to do this anymore. And let's take a look at our database. So I'm going to go back here to clusters. You can see that we have some usage now. I'm going to go to collections. And we should have 2 collections, our users collection as well as a books collection. Let's take a look at that user we just made. So up online, right, we have 1 user. It's pretty long. Salt and pepper is being used here. And that's our created and updated date. Really cool. And it's much, in my opinion, this is the way to go in terms of visibility from a user perspective. You can see everything here. Great. So that proves that we're all connected. Nice. And now it's a good place to put this up on Heroku. But before we go put it up on Heroku, we have to update GitHub. So let's go to GitHub down in here. Make a new PowerShell terminal. Clear. Git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say updated URI DB URI to work with MongoDB Atlas. Okay, and then git push, which should push everything up online. And once everything is pushed online, then we can now connect it to Heroku. Let's go back to Heroku, and we have our new site on Heroku. We're going to choose GitHub as our connection type, and we're going to select our repository. We're going to say comp229 search. We're going to show less than 6, which should be called week 6, but it's less than 6. I'm going to click connect, and now it's going to do that standard connection. I'm going to say enable automatic deploys. Click this, and then deploy branch, and let's see if that works. So again, we're going to see how it's deploying. This is important to watch to make sure for the first time that it's working properly, so that way we don't have any issues as we're going forward. And then, if we're good, it's going to show us working everything online, which is what we're looking for now. A fully online website, which is what you're going to deliver to me for your assignment number 2. All right, so let's take a look here. I'm going to click view, and we can see if the app is working. So there we are. So now it's fully online, week 6, HerokuApp.com. If I go to books, we're connected. This is connected online. If we have a fully connected app online, we can log in just like normal. I can just type in admin, and I can log in, and I can edit a book. I can change the price to $11.95, submit. You can see that that full CRUD is still working, and we're good to go. All right, that's pretty awesome. And that is basically showing us full CRUD with authentication online with Heroku and MongoDB Atlas. Amazing, right? So we have a pretty much a good site we can show, and this is a great thing for you guys to show in an interview. You can say that I have a mean stack site. I've got this part right here, by the way, satisfies the following requirements. You're using Node, you're using Express, and you're using MongoDB or a NoSQL database online. The only part that's missing that we're going to start hitting next week is Angular. All right, well, next week would be week 8. In this case, next week is your midterm test. Okay, that's it for me for this video. In the next time we come back, we're going to talk about hopefully JWT authentication. I'd like to go there, and then talk about how we can create use Express as an API as opposed to using it as a site. I think Express can be great. You can see that we have making an Express site. There's lots of potential. You can do mostly everything by creating your own front end, which is what we've done. We've used Express views to create our own front end, and it's pretty robust. We can add a lot of other things here, of course. This is a very basic site. We've got lots of stuff that's missing. For example, our About page needs some love products. We can actually specify another collection of products here, some kind of services that you'd be putting in here. A contact page would be nice. Maybe some color for our welcome, admin, and so on. So there's lots of things that you can do here. Okay, but that's it for me, and